electrical appliance manufacturer. I met my wife, Emily, at work, and after a relentless pursuit, she became mine. Emily is a very graceful woman, adept not only in cooking but also in tea ceremony and playing violin. Her family is quite traditional, believing that once married, a woman should stay home and take care of the family. Without hesitation, Emily quit her job after marrying me to support me. Just having Emily's smiling face around brightens up our home. However, I had no idea that my happy days were about to crumble loudly one fateful day. I'll never forget, it was a summer evening. I was exhausted from dealing with clients all day, and was absent-mindedly walking in front of the station. Then, I saw a woman who looked like Emily walking through the town. Overjoyed by this unexpected coincidence, I was just about to call out to Emily in that moment. That's when I noticed a man standing right next to Emily. The two of them were laughing and chatting amiably. I couldn't hide my shock, it just couldn't be. Emily is introverted and I've never heard of her having male friends. It's impossible to think that she could be cheating. But I was severely shaken by the reality in front of my eyes and impulsively took a photo of them. Actually, it was a hectic day at work and I was supposed to go back to the office to put in some overtime, but at that moment, that was the last thing on my mind. Deciding to take the remaining work home, I headed straight there. Back at home, waiting for Emily to return, she eventually walked in, looking exhausted. She seemed startled when she saw me, but I didn't miss it. Trying to cover it up, she smiled and started talking.
Oh. You're home early today.
Her attitude felt hollow to me. So I decided to casually bring up today's main topic. Trying not to seem prying, I asked as casually as I could. So, where were you today? And then Emily said,
I had lunch with a friend today, and then stopped by the supermarket before coming home.
She probably did go to the supermarket. She was holding a shopping bag. It didn't seem like she was fabricating an alibi. While thinking about the man I saw earlier, I ate the dinner Emily made. Finally, when we had finished cleaning up after the meal, I sat down at the table, showed Emily the photo I took earlier, and decided to ask her about it. Actually, I saw you by chance on my way back from a sales visit today. Is this man the friend you were talking about? I took out my phone and showed her the photo. Emily, who had been smiling until now, froze. Seeing her reaction, I couldn't help but feel suspicious. I asked her directly, "Hey, is he really just a friend?" Perhaps realizing my inner turmoil, Emily suddenly came out with an unexpected explanation.
Oh, that's actually my brother.
I was dumbfounded by her poor attempt at lying. You have a brother? I've never heard about him from your parents, and he wasn't at our wedding, was he? I shot back, and Emily, while insisting,
He really is my brother.
looked down. Overwhelmed by anger at Emily's blatant lie, I finally burst out yelling. How dare you betray me like this? You have no place here anymore. Hearing my words, Emily started crying. All I wanted was for her to say,
No, you've got it all wrong.
Yet, through her tears, she packed her clothes and valuables into a duffel bag and eventually left the house. The situation escalated so quickly that I couldn't keep up. Our marriage was supposed to be happy, but in the blink of an eye, I was all alone. The fact that Emily left without making any excuses meant she was essentially admitting to her guilt. I never imagined Emily could be cheating on me. I wish I had never seen her with that man, it only dug my own grave. I was feeling desperate, and didn't know where she was. Just to be sure, I tried calling her parents' house, but they seemed to know nothing about the situation. Not wanting to worry them further, I hastily ended the call. A week passed without any contact from Emily. I knew I needed to talk to her, but I was afraid to face reality, so I threw myself into my work instead. There was no way I could talk to my coworkers about this. They noticed that I didn't have my usual homemade lunch and kindly asked,
"Hey, is Emily feeling all right?"
Their concern felt like an unwanted intrusion. I was becoming increasingly reckless. It had been 2 weeks since Emily had left. Returning home after another day of working late, exhausted, I was surprised to find an unfamiliar man standing in front of my house. At first, I was startled, but as I took a closer look, thinking he might be an acquaintance, I was shocked for the second time. It was the man who had been with Emily. Despite my obvious annoyance, he seemed to notice, and nervously started talking to me.
I'm really sorry to bother you so late at night, but I need to talk to you about Emily.
Just as I thought. It was indeed that man, as I had suspected from the start. Fighting back the urge to hit him, I openly showed my wariness. The man was desperately trying to get through to me.
Could you please just listen to me? I'm sure you'll understand.
Watching him beg, my anger started to subside. I didn't want to listen to anything this guy had to say. But maybe it was time for me to face reality. Despite my discomfort, I decided to listen to what he had to say. It was late, and I was mindful of the neighbors. I let the man into my house. He was humble, but seemed to have made up his mind to speak. Lifting his head, he began to talk all at once.
My name is Alex Scott. Actually, I am Emily's real brother.
In that moment, I was furious, thinking he was lying too, but as I calmed down and thought about it. Scott. Isn't that Emily's maiden name? Was this man really Emily's brother? Noticing my surprise, Alex started to speak hesitantly.
Actually, I've been disowned by my family. I'm ashamed to say, I got myself drowned in gambling and alcohol, and I wasn't even invited to Emily's wedding.
So that was it. I was slowly beginning to understand the situation Alex was in, and why Emily had been protecting him. Alex continued. Despite being forbidden to contact any family members, Emily had secretly been in touch with Alex. Thanks to Emily's support, Alex was finally able to cut ties with gambling and alcohol. He had decided to start living earnestly. Just when he thought so, it was discovered that Alex had developed cirrhosis from drinking too much. The hospital recommended immediate hospitalization. Alex, who hadn't been working properly, couldn't afford the hospital bills. Regrettably, he had to give up on treatment and was bedridden alone in his run-down apartment. Even then, Emily was worried and came to visit him. She used her savings from before she was married to pay for Alex's hospitalization. Thanks to that, Alex was finally starting to recover. But Emily had done even more for Alex. In fact, she had secretly started a part-time job on weekdays, without telling me. She was supporting Alex's hospital life with that money. Alex, tears in his eyes, appealed to me.
It's all because I was so worthless. Emily did her very best to help me. She already has a new family, yet I've even managed to ruin her marital relationship. I'm truly sorry.
What was all this? I hadn't noticed anything about what Emily was doing. Actually, there were 2 things Emily had kept secret from me. The first was that she had a brother who was disowned. The second was that she started a part-time job for her brother. While listening to the story, I thought, that's just like kind-hearted Emily. She probably ran around looking for a hospital for Alex and arranging for living expenses. And somehow, I felt I understood why Emily kept silent about Alex's existence to me. Emily's family has been wealthy landowners for generations. Her parents are both very respectable people. According to Emily, they were very strict and passionate about educating their children. If her parents found out that me and her were helping Alex, who they had presumably disowned, it could ruin the relationship between me and Emily's family in an instant. That's probably why Emily couldn't tell me, and she continued to take care of Alex all by herself. The more I thought about how Emily felt, the more I couldn't hold back my tears. Alex was also sobbing uncontrollably. He must have been really grateful to Emily. He confessed to me,
I truly thought I shouldn't show myself in front of you. But I can't let Emily divorce because of me. I hoped at least you'd understand.
I felt a warmth in my heart. It seemed that Alex had decided to trust and tell me. We've cleared up the misunderstanding, Emily. I'm so sorry for jumping to conclusions. Please come back. I beg you. Let me apologize for my mistake. I silently whispered these thoughts in my heart. A few days later, Emily and Alex came back to our home. Emily sincerely apologized to me for lying. And from the bottom of my heart, I apologized to her for not trusting her. Alex deeply regretted causing such trouble. He said he should have reconciled with his parents. Finally, smiles returned to our faces. A few months later, Alex properly apologized to his parents for everything. He was forgiven and the disownment was lifted. As for Emily and me, we vowed never to lie or hide anything from each other again, and started living together once more. We are no longer strangers, we're family. I promise to protect Emily, no matter what. My name is Jack. I got married last year, and it's almost our first anniversary. My wife's name is Emily. We've been together since high school, and after 10 years of dating, we finally got married. I made her wait a long time until I graduated from college and got a stable job, but I've always felt so happy to be married to her. However, there was a day when I had to go to a nearby town for work. That's when I saw it. I saw Emily walking from a hotel, holding hands with another man. I wanted to confront her immediately, but I was afraid she'd deny it and destroy any evidence if I didn't have any proof. So, I went to work, without knowing what to do. I was so shocked that I kept making mistakes at work. When I got home, Emily greeted me as usual, saying,
"Welcome back, honey. I made your favorite dinner tonight."
That made me wonder if I was just misunderstanding. I said to her, "Really? I love your cooking, Emily. Thanks a lot." I decided to express my gratitude more often. Maybe it was partly my fault, after all. If I was mistaken, I wanted to make sure she didn't cheat on me. But that night, I couldn't stop picturing Emily with that unknown man at the hotel. I needed to know the truth, so I hired a private investigator. I just wanted to be sure nothing was going on. While waiting for the investigation, I tried to be more grateful, helped out with housework, and spent as much time with Emily as I could on weekends. But the investigation results turned out positive as hell. And then, the investigator hesitantly added,
Apparently Emily just had an abortion.
Hearing the recorded evidence, I threw up on the spot. The Emily I knew couldn't do something so terrible. I pondered deeply on how to bring up the investigation results on my way back, but nothing came to mind, and my nausea only got worse. Thinking I'd probably break down if I were alone, I ended up discussing it with our mutual friends over some drinks. That night, I didn't go home. Emily sent me bunch of messages like,
What's wrong?
and
I'm worried about you.
how could she even say that? My friend, who's a lawyer, reassured me.
You've got plenty of evidence. We're here for you.
In the morning, I went home with 4 friends. On the way, one of them called Emily's parents. And we confronted her with the evidence. Emily broke down crying, but I played one of the recordings where she happily said,
I don't love my husband, my lover is only you. I had the abortion because you asked me to, right?
I told her, I can't be with someone who can say such things so happily. When Emily's parents arrived, I told her, I'm sorry, but you need to leave my house. Before I passed out, I woke up in a hospital, with my mother crying by my side. She kept saying,
You did well.
and apologized. With Emily's parents' help, the divorce went surprisingly quickly. I even received alimony from Emily's lover. He turned out to be married as well, and Emily was also being sued for alimony by his wife. I left everything to my parents though, since I didn't want any connection with her. I asked my workplace to transfer me far away. For a while, I focused on work and went out with new friends. My mother and friends called me regularly to check in, just when I was starting to move on. A woman named Kate joined our workplace. I overheard other coworkers saying,
Did you know? Kate just got divorced and moved back here with her kid.
I felt sorry for her but didn't think much of it. We threw a welcome party for her, and she was so considerate, even taking orders from others at her own party. I started to take an interest in her. When it was my turn for introductions during the party, during the self-introductions at a gathering with my co-workers and part-timers, it was my turn to speak. Suddenly, Kate looked surprised and said,
I'm sorry, I have an emergency.
and left. Everyone was surprised but thought she probably had to take care of something urgent with her kid. From that day, I felt like Kate was avoiding me, but since it didn't affect our work, I didn't pay much attention. My first Christmas in this town was spent alone, as I was still scared to go back home. I went to the grocery store to get some ingredients for Christmas meal. There, I bumped into Kate and her child. I greeted them with, "Oh, what a coincidence." But she ignored me. I thought to myself, wow, she really hates me, and continued shopping. When I went outside, Kate was waiting for me. It was cold, and she had given her jacket to her child. She approached and asked,
Could I talk to you for a minute?
I followed her, puzzled, to a park. In there, she apologized saying,
I'm sorry for what my ex-husband did.
I was confused and asked, what do you mean? She kept going.
I was the wife of your ex-wife's affair partner. We're divorced now and I have no more ties to him. I've been wanting to apologize for a long time.
I was shocked. I remembered my mother mentioning an apology from the other man's wife. I couldn't believe she was right in front of me. I asked her, did you know I worked at the company when you joined? She replied,
I'm from around here and got the job through a family connection. I had no idea you were here. When I heard your name, I recognized it from the documents and realized it was you.
Due to her crying, it made her sleeping child wake up and start crying too. I reassured her, I'm not holding a grudge anymore, and I came here to move on. Please don't worry about it. It's getting dark. Let me drive you home. And I drove them home. Afterwards, I called my mother to tell her what happened. I continued to interact normally with Kate at work. One day, I heard Kate's child had been injured at kindergarten and was taken to the hospital by ambulance. I offered to drive, saying, "I'll take my car." During the ride, Kate prayed and cried for her child's safety. I kept reassuring her, "It's going to be okay." At the hospital, we found out her child had a bandaged head but wasn't seriously hurt. We were relieved. I told her, "I'll let the office know, so you take the rest of the day off. I'll drive you two home." In the car, I listened to Kate and her child talking. It was heartwarming. When we arrived at her house, Kate tried to offer me money, saying,
I know it's not much, but
I refused, saying, "No, no, please don't. I was worried too, and I didn't do this for money." Seeing her uneasy, I suggested, "How about you treat me and your child to dinner sometime instead?" She was surprised but agreed. I returned to the office, made my report, and then got back to work. On the day of our dinner, I was nervous about what to wear. I left my house early to pick them up. Kate and her child were already waiting outside. During dinner, I noticed how gracefully she ate, thanked the staff, and even tidied up the dishes after eating. I blurted out, "I wonder why your husband cheated on you." She paused, then forced a laugh.
after quitting my job and having our child, he started yelling at me. Maybe if I had been more attractive, he wouldn't have strayed.
I panicked and quickly said, "I'm sorry. No, that's not it. You're punctual, elegant, kind. I was just surprised because you don't seem to have any flaws." I felt embarrassed. She smiled and said,
Thank you. I'm flattered.
Since then, we started going out for meals more often. We shared many stories. I told her a lot about myself. Since I always picked them up at Kate's parents' house, I got to know them too. Her child's name is Mary. I invited Kate and Mary a dinner celebrating Mary starting elementary school. Mary asked me,
"Hey, Jack, are you going to marry Mommy?"
Kate and I were both surprised. Without thinking, I said, "That's a tough one. I was actually planning to ask. Kate, would you consider a relationship with the intention of marriage with me?" She cried and said yes. I was overjoyed. That Christmas, I went to my parents' house with Kate and Mary. My parents were surprised but cried with happiness. My friends who had helped me through tough times were also happy for us. One of my friends asked,
"Do you want to hear about what happened to Emily?"
but I replied, "No, I'm not interested anymore." He laughed and said,
"That's great. I wish you all the happiness in the world."
On the way back, I handed Kate a ring. I said, "We haven't been together long, but I promise to support you with all my heart. Will you marry me?" She replied,
Yes, I'd be honored.
I look forward to walking through life together with her from now on.